Hello, friends. I'm getting ready to send out my newsletter, and I was sitting here thinking, do I write things? Do I just pop here on camera? And I thought maybe I'd pop here on camera so I can ruminate and hopefully not get lost in the ruminations a little bit. But just to kind of beam in here and connect with you with my words. Um, Ah, wow. There's a lot going on out in the world, and my inboxes, my DMs, and in conversations, full up with a lot of people of just kind of looking for both connection, but also some guidance in how to navigate these times where there's so much uncertainty. And while I don't have the answers, and I'm on my own journey with all of this, there are a few things that have been coming up over and over. And so I guess I'll try to share some of those things with you. Probably none of it new, but once again, sometimes when you hear something put in a different way, it starts to make some different sense or bring in some different inspiration for you. So a lot of what people are asking about is how to deal with the overwhelm, how to stay in, a centered place, and and how to move into action and right action, and I'm really happy that kind of that question is there because it's so easy to be overwhelmed because there's just like so many things that are requiring action. But I think that a lot of times we tend to fall into this need to perhaps feel like we address it all, or that if we don't step into some space, then that space doesn't get stepped into, right? And then therefore it's a fail, and the bad things happen, right? Or what we look at as are the bad things happen and can unfold. And I'm gonna, bring us back into this um, space of really, really starting to understand the importance of present moment awareness. It's like we know that this is important. It's really hard to stay in the present moment when there's such a barrage of everything going on, but really coming into the knowing of the magical nature actually of the present moment and present moment awareness. Um, and so this dropping in of just like being here, being now, doing that with the breath, doing in whatever way or form of mindfulness you do, but dropping in and just kind of checking in with where are you at and how are you getting pulled away from yourself in the many different ways. And so with overwhelm, one of the things that I found is, and I've been thinking about too, is kind of just this concept of finding your lane and finding what is yours, what is your piece to do. And for me, I've been a little bit ruminating on in these times of big change, am I wanting to be in the role of death doula, of birth doula, of a bridge that, has one foot in each paradigm? And what would a lane look like if I were to kind of get in one to move away from the sense of overwhelm? Because when I'm in a lane, at least for that moment, for in that present moment, I can then just be with what is the next best, right? Either perspective, action, breath, rest, right? What is needed right now in this moment in terms of the lane that I'm in. And then also thinking about in terms of the lane that I'm in, it's like each day within that lane, be looking to, let's say I decided that the role of death doula for the culture was um, the lane I wanted to be in this moment. And I'm not saying that is, but I'm just trying to build an example here. I would first begin with the self in that moment. And so every day doing something for the self that helps support me in that lane and in that role. And most likely it's rest or it's different ways of self care or it's ways of building capacity, right? To be able to step into further things. And then what then within that lane is right in front of me in terms of like more immediate surroundings. So, like family or family of choice, and what needs tending in that lane, in that next layer out, which is family of choice. And then the next layer out could be community, and then the next layer out could be the larger world. And I'm not saying that at all, that things need to get solved in each rung before you go out. I'm just saying every day you can take a look at that lane and you can go, okay, what does self need in this lane in order to be of help, in order to be effective in this lane? What does immediate family need from me in terms of this? Like, in terms of like what endings are happening in my family, who might need support? Beautiful friend Leah, was speaking to me a little while back about how she pulled back from, some larger projects that she was doing because it's just like spirit saying, you're stepping over the bodies to get to where you think the help is needed, right? Because we sometimes have our eyes out so far that we can't see the what's needed like right in front of us. So that is one way, I guess, that can be thought of in terms of just like you can still be active, you can still do things that is one takes us one step closer toward, you know, a way of being or doing in the world that feels aligned, that feels really aligned. And you can also change your mind too on what that lane is or what you're doing. But this is mostly in terms of like helping us get focused so that we can move into sustainable ways of being in the world. And we can actually get to more inspired action. Because when we're in present moment awareness and we can get into stillness, even if just for a few seconds, that usually allows the space for the knowing to come of what is the right next action, of what can come. But we often have to be really present in order to hear it and to do it. And we can't do that when we're flailing and when we're reacting. So all easier said than done, of course. All easier said than done. And then the other thing that came up for me too to speak to about present moment awareness is also a little bit of the magic of that. Years ago, so this would have been during the pandemic because it was in an online full moon gathering that we had done for Sophia Unfolds. And we were practicing connecting to different like goddess archetypes or energies and listening for messages. And in this particular time, we happen to be connecting into the Artemis Diana um, energy, deity, however you want to look at that sort of thing. And I was surprised actually at how clearly a message came through for me, and it was in a real felt sense and a showing. And what Artemis Diana was showing me is that because she's an archer, part of her attribute is as an archer, right? And so, as an archer, when you are taking aim and you have a goal in mind, or you have something that you feel needs to happen in the culture or in your life or what have you, your stance before you let that arrow fly is everything. It has everything to do with how things turn out, how things actually unfold in the end. And what we are living right now is actually what has been loosened in previous actions, right? And moments. So we are here because of previous decisions, previous things that have happened, right? So time isn't linear, but we experience it in that way. And what we can come to know is that, what she was showing me is that even like the slight angle of your foot in that moment can cause the arrow to like go a little bit off course. And of course, life is, about learning and experiencing and everything in that moment. But that really stood out for me. And especially in times like this, when we collectively and individually are, and no matter what side of the thought and perspective you're on, we all want things to be better. We need them to be different. We need them to be better. We need them to, as Eisenstein said, to build the beautiful world that our hearts know is possible. And so if you are in flailing reactivity, that's the stance that you have as you're shooting toward the future, right? So just bring that in and understanding that the space that you are in now determines which doors open in the future, which doors close in the future, right? Determines the timing and synchronicities of things. So your energy and how you can be in each moment um, it's not like deterministic, but it has a great influence. It has a great influence. So whatever you can do to be fully present and in choice, that's it too, right? It's just like, what are you choosing to be? How are you choosing to be in this moment that is now the foundation for the next moment to come, right? And so it's just like, what kind of foundations do you want to be building for yourself and your world? And that's why present moment awareness is so important. I guess I could have a better word for that, but it's important. It's important to the quality of our lives right now, and it's important to our future selves and to future generations. So, yeah. I think that's mostly it. Oh, there was one other thing that I wanted to kind of say too, is just like, I think it's really easy for our minds to want to be grabbing things and grasping things because we want to understand why. And we want to understand why people are this way or that way or thinking or what have you. And we get into this paradox. And in this present, moment awareness, it's also so helpful to drop into the heart because the mind will never be able to understand. The brain especially does not have the capacity really to understand paradox and the complexity of what is unfolding, right? Um, so it's not the tool for the job. So the tool for the job that's at hand right now in the present moment is to keep dropping into heart awareness, to keep getting into alignment um, with love, right? The true, the good, and the beautiful, and what that is for us. And then building a foundation for that, for ourselves and for the future. So I think I've prattled long enough. It is so good to spend some time with you. I do watch who opens and I know I know who's watched and I always connect with you in that moment. And so sending you my love and um, we got this. We got this. We take care of each other. We belong to one another and we've got this.